Oh, I'm just gonna go ahead. Welcome to the podcast. This is Ed from Workiz, or is it Workiz? We've got a lot of people asking that question. So which is it? Which is it?
That is always the $1,000,000 question. We should probably just respell it Workease, because then there would be no confusion.
Yeah,
However, it is Workiz.
Workiz.
And
Okay, cool.
that's really just a play on words, because Workiz is easy, and so we want everyone to always remember that. Finally, there exists field service management software that is easy to use, and that's just not something that people can usually wrap their brain around.
There you go. No, EJ, we just got started, so thanks for joining in. We got quite a few already jumping in here. Kevin Smith from Benton. I know Kevin, Jeremy, EJ's. We got some appliance guys on here. So tonight, Ed is going to be talking to us a little bit about um, Angie's List type of companies and how to make them work in your contracting business. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So lead generation and aggregation with Ed from Workiz. Very good. Well, I tell you what, tell us a little bit about you, Ed. Where are you from?
Well, originally, so currently located in Central Texas. Now, depending who I'm talking to, I hesitate to say where I really am, because sometimes I get a lot of eyebrow raises. I'm actually outside of Austin, Texas.
Okay.
I live in beautiful hill country. Originally born and raised in Denver, Colorado, though.
Oh, wow.
Really traveled quite a bit, over the years. But Texas is where I call home now.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So, tell us a little bit about like what motivates you to get up every day.
I tell you what, it's good to be alive. It's good to
It's
be
good to be
alive.
alive.
I'm excited about a lot of things. Very excited about the last 6 months that I've been with Workiz. Not to talk shop too much, but I have taken over as the national HVAC channel manager for Workiz, and as I said, it's been about 6 months, but I'm definitely no stranger to the home services industry. As
Yeah.
you mentioned, Angie's List, Home Advisor. I spent almost a decade working for that company.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, as a part of the business development national accounts team, I was very instrumental in growing out some of our largest national enterprise accounts within the franchise world, working strategic partnerships with manufacturers, distributors, but my primary focus was within home services, specifically to HVAC, plumbing, and electrical.
Awesome.
So definitely no stranger to this space.
Yeah. I'd say you got quite the experience backing you up there. So, well, hey, you kind of started diving into it. So let's just get into the meat of it. We're running just a hair bit behind, but let's talk about this. So, talk to me about lead generation. I mean, this is something that every contractor that I seem to talk to, they're like, tell me more. How do I get more calls in? Right? When I'm slow, how do I get more calls in? And I'm going to play a little bit the opposite side. Like Angie's List, not been one of my favorites in the past. So how do I make Angie's List work? Right? Talk to me about that.
Well, I'm happy to talk to you about that. And, Angie's List Home Advisor actually happens to be a Workies strategic partner.
Yeah.
Uh, and I can tell you the one thing that usually ends up being a game changer, regardless of what field service management software you're using. But it is obviously advantageous if the one that you are using, for example, Workies, happens to integrate with Angie Home Advisor.
Okay.
Because Because the game changer aspect is you've really got to be thinking about speed to lead. I spent entirely too many years watching people think that their campaigns with Home Advisor Angie's List were failures because they would just simply be receiving a text message or
Yeah.
an email. And maybe these texts were going out to multiple different devices. You know, you're going to a personal email address. Things get real messy there. But
Hmm.
when you have a way to actually get that lead directly fed into your FSM platform, like Workiz, that in itself is a game changer because it is automatically showing up in your dashboard and you're not having to go back and check an email. Sometimes emails get slow, they can be delayed. Text messages. I mean, I was at a
Yeah.
doctor's office last week and they're like, oh, well, you should be getting this text for a registration form. And I'm sitting there staring at my watch. Yeah, it's been 15 minutes, still don't have that text message. So
Yeah.
can't really speak to things like what's going to happen with technology, but with our open API infrastructure,
Hmm.
Angie Home Advisor is sending that lead directly into our system, and boom, it's there on your
Okay.
dashboard. It gives you a little bit of a competitive edge to be able to respond to that lead faster.
Okay. So walk me through that. A homeowner reaches out to a company like Angie's List. Then what happens from there?
So typically, in the way, and you'll have to forgive me here because I have been removed from the organization for a little over 4 years now, but much of it is still the same. So
Yeah. From Angie's List. Yeah.
depending on how the homeowner arrived to the
Hmm.
website, they may have been simply doing a Google search and they're looking for, air conditioning repair in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, like, you're pretty much not going to be able to beat out the search engine optimization or the search engine marketing SEM pay per click that Home Advisor and Angie's List can provide, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. So you got the big marketing dollars backing them up for
yeah,
sure.
and it's just a ton of money there, a ton of resources. So typically, what you're going to find is either an AdWord that's going to take you into the site, or the organic visibility of the site is also incredible. So you may click on one of those organic links, but
Hmm.
it's typically going to be on page one, and then you'll
Okay.
go through a process about, well, tell me about your project, what exactly is it that you need. And sometimes there are redundant questions that are asked, because maybe
Yeah.
somebody thinks they need a repair when in fact they need a replacement, or maybe they only need an inspection. So the site does a really good job of qualifying, trying to ask as many questions as possible.
Yeah.
But in you know in context, I can tell you that the general format of the platform is to try to give the homeowner several different choices. Now
Okay.
that, my friends, is what will usually rub a contractor the wrong way.
Hmm.
They sit there
Yeah.
and think, well, I don't want to have to share a lead. I don't want to have to share a lead with two or three other people. Now it's just a rat race to see who's going to get to the customer the fastest,
Yep.
or who's going to provide the lowest price.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, I unequivocally do not believe in that philosophy at
Yeah.
all.
So you have the open API with Angie's List. Now there's next, like Gasper here is asking, what about Nextdoor? That's another one.
So yeah, Nextdoor is a great app. We are not currently integrated with Nextdoor, but there's been some discussion. I like to say Workies, our middle name is integration, and
Ah,
so we
that's
won't
cool.
really leave too many stones unturned. I think we'd love to work with Nextdoor, but it's just not currently something we do have in place. However, you're asking about other integrations for lead generation. We happen to be one of the only field service management platforms in the industry that integrate with both Angie Home Advisor, Google Local Services, as
Uh,
well as Thumbtack. So those are all
oh wow.
three
Okay.
very powerful options that are available to you through Workiz.
Gotcha. Okay. So what are some of the, well, I guess that's another way to say it. So you don't have you have open APIs with a lot of these companies.
Mhm.
So what's the competitive advantage with going with uh, your company, or even trying to utilize some of these Angie's List, Nextdoor type of companies versus maybe somebody just wants to throw some money into social media marketing or other kinds of marketing? What's the advantage of using these type of companies that
The
you're
advantage,
seeing?
the advantage to using these types of companies, again, especially if you can get those leads directly fed into your field service platform, is the fact that you are inevitably going to get those leads faster. It's just that is what I have always seen. The lead shows up quicker, which gives you a leg up to be able to make a call. Sometimes depending on how the integration is set up, I know with our platform we can actually set up a whisper file. So when
Mm,
and for those that don't understand what a whisper file is, it's attached through your phone system. So Workiz has its own proprietary communications platform, to where a lead comes in. Well, it'll actually like ring your phone. It'll ring your phone so that your dispatcher can pick up, and it'll say, like, you have an incoming Angie Home Advisor lead.
that's
Press
pretty cool.
1 to connect. So it will then dial out to that customer,
Huh,
just saving you some time, right?
yeah,
So
feed the
it's
lead.
it's all about saving time. Like I said, speed to lead, speed to lead. That's what it's all about. Now, obviously, not all leads are going to turn into booked appointments and or jobs, right?
Yeah.
So here's what I always used to try to do to educate the masses. As I said, I spent a tremendous amount of time with the company. I was kind of the face of Home Advisor. It was Home Advisor then. Gone through many name changes. And so, I spent a lot of time on the road attending trade shows. I was the face of Home Advisor, and, I'd stand there at a booth and go, Home Advisor. Like, people love that.
Yeah.
But I would have some really powerful conversations with people where I would just get them to start simply shifting their perspective a little bit. I
Yeah.
can tell you stories about a man who would say, "Well, I spent $25,000 on a Valpak campaign.
Woo.
Putting
A lot.
little flyers out there, to all these different houses, and
Yeah.
well, so how's that worked out for you?" Well, my return has been, it's been pretty good because I actually sold a few systems. I'm like, okay, so you sold a few systems, and each system was worth about how much to you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
depending where they're located in the country, depending on what their margins look like, or the markup,
Yeah.
that could mean a lot of different things. But to this particular individual, he's saying, "Oh, I did okay. Spent 25 grand. I made about 50." I'm
Maybe.
like,
I don't know.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like they
Well,
always try.
having
So,
that integrated into your field service software, it's like this funnel, right? And so you can kinda
right.
track it a lot better? Tell me about
Well,
that
yeah,
process
you
a
you
little
can
bit.
definitely track it a lot better because we have very robust reporting that's going to be able to tie back to any type of advertising campaign that you're running. So, we typically recommend, if you're using our Workies communications platform, that you should allocate a dedicated phone number to each and every advertising campaign. So, if
Okay.
you are doing Valpak, make sure you have a unique tracking number for that Valpak campaign. You're
Yeah.
going to trade shows, have a trade show phone line. Your website's going to have its own individual number. Google Local Services will have its own individual number. Facebook will have its own individual number. And then what's cool is that when the call does come in, Workies automatically identifies the source of that lead.
Oh,
And
that's
so
cool.
it tags automatically. I can get very long winded and ADD, so please reel me in if you need to. But I remember
I mean,
also, I used to have these great conversations with people that would say, well, I shouldn't have to pay for that lead that I just paid for because
yeah,
Andrew Robinson was already a customer of mine. I
yeah,
got Andrew from a pay per click campaign that I did 2 years ago. And I
yeah,
said, aha, well, Andrew's not necessarily going to be loyal to you 100% of the time. And guess what? He just came through on your Angie Home Advisor lead. So you're paying for him again,
yeah,
like customers aren't always going to be loyal, but we will always help update the source of that lead so that if he changes from, a website lead to a pay-per-click lead to all of a sudden coming in off of a Facebook ad, like we want you to continue to know, where it stands today.
yeah. So speaking of Andrew, the bearded wonder there, you have any questions there for Ed? And I know
I
you deal
do.
with
I do. I was
several
waiting
different
for
field service managements.
I was waiting for a breath.
Go for it.
Breathe, man, breathe. No. Um, Putting on my client services hat for a minute. Um, as an advocate for them, we do have a number of clients who do use, of course. Well, it's just Angie now, um, but also Yelp, Nextdoor, Thumbtack, all the biggies. And the bulk of what we're looking at in the market that seems to drift towards us is those smaller shops, sort of 1 to 3 man trucks, sometimes 4 or 5. And the word of the day is value.
Mm,
So they're looking to maximize every single dollar. Of course, elephant in the room. We all know there's been you're not the best press for Angie and Home Advisor the last few years. So speaking to that, how do they maximize their dollar in
Well,
terms of what packages they should use? How not to get sucked in by some of these sales reps who are a little too eager to sell you this package and that package.
so I can tell you this much. I mean, again, I've had these conversations countless times, and I take great pride in the fact that I was able to turn people around, get them to, rethink things, shift their perspectives a bit. The one thing is, I'll say this much: advertising is not cheap. It doesn't matter
no.
how you do it; you're going to spend some money. And so you have to be willing to, at least this has always been my philosophy, have a target number in mind about what it is that you're wanting to gross. Okay, so let's say you want to gross $100,000 in sales. I would say that 9 times out of 10, you ought to be willing to spend at least 10% of that, at least. So you want to make 100 grand, you need to be willing to spend about $10,000 in order to get there. Now,
Hmm.
if we can fall under that amount, that's great. But here's the real secret sauce: be strategic, work smarter and not harder. Now, again, going back to 2019, some of these lead prices have gone up exponentially over the years. So
Mm-hmm.
do not hold me to this, but I seem to recall, specifically for those that are joining us today within the appliance world, I recall appliance leads on average costing around $15 to $20 a lead. Wouldn't shock me if it's more like 25 to 30 now, maybe even
Yep.
more. Okay, but the reality is, you cannot be afraid to spend the money because it is a numbers game. It's a numbers game. People will tell me, "Oh, well, I spend $10,000 a month on pay per click, and it works out pretty well for me." And I'm like, "Well, what's your cost per click?" And a lot of the times they don't even know what their cost per click is. And I'm like, "Well, what's your cost per call?" Right? And when they don't know that either, then I know we have a really big problem. But like, you have to understand what things are costing you. A lot
Hmm.
of the times, because pay per click is going to inevitably generate an inbound call to you, to your business, that seems more acceptable, and it's not as much in the concept of sharing a lead with other service professionals. And so my biggest piece of advice and recommendation was always stop taking it personally. Okay? You have to stop taking it
Yeah.
personally. Yes, there are going to be leads that you pay for where the customer doesn't pick up the phone, or they change their mind, or they say, "Yeah, no, I'm not really interested. I was just looking around." And
Yeah.
then if you take it personally, you get heated about it. You're like, "Well, I shouldn't have to pay for that lead. I shouldn't have to pay for that lead." Now that's where the real experts in this industry start to say, "No, you are absolutely wrong there. That lead is worth its weight in gold
Hmm.
because you now have a contact that you can put into your customer database with Workiz, right? You can create a marketing campaign like a drip campaign to
Yeah.
continue to reach out to this customer. Just because somebody says no, not today, doesn't mean that they're going to say no, never,
A
like
sales funnel. Yeah.
contact information is always going to be worth its weight in gold. But then you really need to also start looking at, like, okay, so say, we'll keep the math simple here. You bought 10 leads at $15 per lead. You spent $150, right? Well, it kind of hurts for the 8 or so that didn't go anywhere. But for the 1 or 2 that did, what did that mean to your bottom line? How
Yeah.
much money did you make? Do you now have a repeat customer that you're going to be able to collect a review from? Workies does a great job in automating the review collection process. You try to point those reviews to the appropriate channels. You're trying to grow reviews on Angie Home Advisor. You're trying to grow reviews on Google Local Services. Get those reviews going to the right places. And
Yeah.
so all of your wins are going to mean something to you over the long run, especially because I've talked to a million people that say word of mouth is my best form of advertisement. And I'm not going to disagree with that. Word of mouth is an awesome form of advertisement, but sometimes you have to pay to get those loyal customers who will then
Yeah.
be word of mouth to refer you out to others.
Yeah. That's for sure.
So, harking
Good.
back to your earlier point about remarketing campaigns and drip campaigns, because that's always one that I recommend also. Um, the only thing I would caution, because we are a national audience, is please do check your state specific laws on that, because in the last 3 or 4 years, there have been a number of changes in some of the less permissive states, and where previously that kind of contact constituted permission, now you need to be a little more strict about it.
Yeah,
But definitely customer acquisition cost, cost per click, and the all important return on investment, which I would extend that into the back office front of things and say it's worth remembering that the end of your return on investment is not just once you close that initial lead. Typically anything you can get within the first sort of 30 minutes or 30 minutes, 30 days is key to add to that return on investment, because that is a customer that would not have come to you originally. And it's worth making sure that in the first sort of 30 days, you are accounting for those leads.
100%.
absolutely. And I just wanted to add one other thing to that too. So again, if you're using Workies' reporting analytics to its fullest potential, you're going to be tracking areas where you have the highest conversion rates. What service areas have you set up? Again, being Mr. Texas here, I'm going to say, like, in Austin. Am I converting more jobs in Williamson County, or am I converting more jobs in Travis County? Perhaps I'm expanding too far. Now I'm trying to run jobs in Comal County too.
Yeah.
I don't have enough technicians out there. And maybe, again, tying back to Angie Home Advisor, maybe the sales rep that I was working with set me up for a geographic territory that was just way too big. I'm taking on way too many zip codes that are not necessarily the most profitable areas for me. So I really want to think about where I'm performing well first and foremost, and then where am I looking to grow my business? Because you don't have to buy leads from every single zip code out there. So
Mhm.
that's what I was getting at when I said be a little more strategic, work smarter, not harder.
Uh-oh, we got a question from EJ here. EJ's appliance. Sell Workies to me, Ed. Why
They'll
should we
work it.
switch? His
Why
question.
should we switch? And I'd love to answer that question. I'm not sure what you're using today. Uh, Assuming this is EJ. EJ.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're using today, but I will tell you this much. I think a lot of the guys back in San Diego at our U.S. Corporate headquarters, they get tired of me saying this, but I love to say it. Okay, so if a field service management software was developed by, say, a staple household product like Apple, right? Let's say Apple was out there designing field service management software. Workies would be it. We are hands down the easiest field service management software that has ever been designed. And I feel very passionately about that because I did spend almost a decade over at Home Advisor, and I would listen to people complain constantly about how complicated some of their field service platforms were, how it required, somewhat of a PhD or an advanced software engineering degree just to use the thing. The fact of the matter is, when there are companies out there that literally exist just to be able to train you on how to use your field service management software, that is a really big problem. It is also a
Yeah.
really big problem if you are having to break the bank in order
Hmm.
to afford the platform.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I happen to know, go to our website. We start as little as $49 a month per user and
yeah.
provide some of the most powerful options out there. I mean, our automations are world class. You can automate literally anything that you can think of. You've got outstanding invoices that need to be collected upon, build an automation for that. Missed a
Yeah.
call, want to get in touch with that customer, build an automation for that. You've decided to implement service agreements into your business.
I was
You've
just
got
going to
autom-
ask. There's a lot of appliance repair companies jumping on that actually want to incorporate service agreements into their business. So, do you have do
Oh
you
yeah.
have how many do you have a lot of appliance repair companies? I take it that are using
You know,
Workies.
we have a fair number of appliance repair companies. I probably should have been a little better studied to give you a number on that today, but
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just going to say we got a lot. We've got a
So you have
lot of.
service agreements built in, or do
We
they need
absolutely
to
have
create that?
service agreements. It's a little bit of a newer feature for us. We've only had it available now for about 3 or 4 months, but
Yeah.
the adoption rate has been phenomenal. And for
Yeah.
any business owner that has yet to adopt service agreements, 100% this needs to be a part of your business model because it is reoccurring revenue. Reoccurring revenue, I mean, you can't get any better than that because not everyone is actually going to take advantage of their service agreement, but you're still billing them for it, right? And then
Yeah.
let's say your
Ooh,
end
that's a good one.
game, maybe 5, 10 years from now, your end game is to sell your business. Well,
Hmm.
it makes you look a lot more attractive to an investor when you have all of this additional reoccurring revenue built in.
Yeah. Service agreements are good to have. Gasper asks, does your software have an inventory module included?
We do have an inventory module. Yes,
Perfect.
we
Talk about that a
do.
little bit.
So our inventory module is pretty cool. Like as far as anything that you need to keep track of, parts, equipment, you can set it up based on individual. We call them asset locations. So it could be your office, or an asset could be a truck or a
Mhm.
van. So as you are working a job ticket on your phone, right? You've completed the job. You've installed, let's say, you repaired fan on a dryer or something. Okay, now you're going to see how ignorant I am about appliance repair terminologies, but whatever. Use your imagination, okay? So you've replaced a part, you pulled it off of the van. Well, it'd be real nice that as you close that ticket out on your phone, it automatically does a synchronization
Yeah.
back to the removing it off of the van and updating, your back office that you no longer have that in inventory. And we can set up triggers and automations too, so that if you begin to run low on a particular part, that can initiate, a sequence that you need to order more of that part. So
That's
100%
cool.
that is something that we have today.
So
Very good.
jumping on that front with the automations, just to steal the show here for a second.
Go
Please
for it.
do.
And again, with my client hat on, most of my life talking with clients is spent discussing efficiencies because
Mm.
as a small business, sort of 1 to 3 million a year, efficiencies are where your net revenue comes from. So automation is a big downside for a lot of field service providers. No names, obviously, but you've talked a little bit about the automations, the issues that we run into with some of the providers that we've explored in the past is there isn't enough flexibility in their automations. So how customizable are the automation modules in Workiz, and how industry specific are they?
Huh.
So incredible. I wish that I had not been having so many technical difficulties before, because I would pull it up right now and show everybody like on a demo. But
Yeah.
I like where you were going with that, Andrew, because I don't like to talk badly about the competition either. So I'm just going to throw out a couple of generalizations. We can all figure out who I might be talking about. There's obviously the 900-pound gargantuan service gorilla type of company out there. If anybody knows where I'm going with, they've got some great automations. Heck, they probably built automations first before anyone else, but they're very locked down. They're kind of hard to customize.
Yeah.
Whereas, I love this about Workies. Doesn't require, like I said, doesn't require a PhD. I had automation set up within the first hour that I was working for the company, because you literally click in the settings and there's a button glaring at you that says automations, and then we provide a bunch of pre canned automations that we think work very well for most businesses.
Okay.
But then if there's something that you're like, oh, well, I'd really like to do this, for example, I like to talk about this, even though Andrew tells me never talk about HVAC companies. He feels a little passionate about that. But, I'm an HVAC guy, okay? HVAC channel manager. So this is a favorite example of mine. It's like, okay, how many comfort advisors are out there on a daily basis selling, selling, selling? I've given
Mhm.
a proposal out. I've got 20 different proposals that are out there pending, yet I'm busy selling and I'm forgetting to follow up on those sales proposals. So
Yeah.
I click on settings. There's my automation button. And then it is just simply logic that is click, 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 click. When this happens, and then you click on this happens, and then it gives you a whole bunch of different options. Well, when what happens? When a proposal, next field, is past due, then do this and do this unless this, and it's just click, 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 and you get to choose, is it going to send it to the customer via text message or
Yeah.
email? So it just doesn't get any easier. You can literally automate anything you can think of.
That's pretty cool.
So on the edge of that, and sort of flipping the script a little and moving to the other side of lead generation. Um, so you've got the lead, you've converted the lead, you've sold the lead, you've conducted the repair, you have a customer. How do you keep that customer to keep that return on investment growing? So in terms of automated follow-ups in the appliance industry in particular, since I see most of our current viewers are in that realm, um,
Hmm.
it is key to be able to reach out to people 6 months, a year after they've had a repair, hey, how's it going? Um, I just wanted to check in and see how that repair's holding up, see if there were any issues you had with that or any other appliances. We'd certainly love to help you out anytime. Is that something that can be built into a campaign in Workiz to go along with, sort of the home advisor and Angie coming in on the one side, automated follow-ups going out on the other, and of course that also ties into service agreements with the automated, hey, it's time to conduct your this year's tune-up. Do you have any issues that we should look at?
Absolutely. And again, those are some of the pre-canned automations that we've already established for the customer. They can simply go in and modify the timeline if they don't like what we've suggested,
Mhm.
because I typically think that a couple of days after the appointment would be a nice time to touch base with the customer. How are things going? Maybe 30 days, 60 days later. In fact, I had built an automation in my demo account just for fun. I was like, Ed's Heating and Air, we really appreciate your business. Please click the following link for an opportunity to win a $500 gift certificate to Buffalo Wild Wings. And so I mean that's something that I've sent out
A lot of
numerous
wings.
times. I love wings, so who can blame me? But yeah, I mean, automation. I just can't say it enough. Automate, automate, automate. You can
Yeah.
save so much time. Like I can't tell you how many customers have told me in the past. Like, well, I've got somebody in the office that has to spend all day Friday reconciling outstanding invoices.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be great if Workies could try to do that for you? Because if it's outstanding, let's just trigger an automation that's reminding the customer, and you can customize the messaging. We're sure that this was just an oversight on your behalf, but please click here to pay your bill. And of course, we have Workies Pay. Workies Pay is an awesome solution, so customer
Hmm.
can pay with credit card, if they want to pay through Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, whatever it might be. We've got all those options available.
Wow, pretty
So
cool.
to sort of bring it together into a short sort of too long didn't read takeaway format. When we talk about lead generation and aggregation, it's important to know that we are not just talking about who you pay to bring you leads, whether that's Angie, Thumbtack, Yelp, Nextdoor, whoever. You also have to capitalize on that investment through conversions, through effective lead follow up in the office, automations through your field service platform, um, touching the customer as many times as you can in follow ups to then remind them and always keep yourself front of mind, which is especially tough in the appliance repair world,
Yeah.
just because no one thinks about you until something's broke. Um,
Indeed.
and then, following that up with um, reporting and analyzing your reporting so that you know your numbers, which is key and something that so many people do miss. So, do you know your cost per click, your lifetime investment in the customer, your return on investment? Do you know your customer acquisition cost, and does it go down the longer you keep them, especially for that repeat business? And then also being able to track those campaigns. And that's a key one, as you mentioned earlier, which I really love because I do that for us here, is where is my business coming from? Where am I selling the most calls? Can I pull the reports that say, oh, I'm selling them in this county versus that county? And does that tie into reducing or expanding your service area in one of these platforms, putting a little more into social media, adjusting your SEO so that you're focusing your ongoing blog and informational posts in those counties by mentioning them so you appear more often in organic searching? It is a holistic whole world view, as I like to say. So it's not just one thing. Your marketing campaign should be broad. Never put all your eggs in one basket. No just Google, no just Angie, no just Yelp.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah, you should definitely be diverse. And
Yeah.
again, not to beat a dead horse, but I just say number one recommendation: don't take it personally. If you could have a list that was itemized by name and IP address of every single person that clicked on you but didn't call, you would probably maybe get offended by that. You're like, whoa, wait a second. You cost me a bunch of money there, right?
Yeah.
But it's just how it's presented in the alternative fashion with some of these other lead generating companies, right? They're giving you a name and a number and a phone, and an email address, and now all of a sudden you're seeing the dollar amount attached to it, and it becomes just, it hits you right there, and you're like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to pay for that lead, but you're looking at it the wrong way. It is a numbers game. The more leads, I've always encouraged, the more leads you buy in volume, so long as you're following up on them and even taking the ones where they said, I don't know if I'm really interested. Hey, that's a buying sign, okay? They were on there doing something. They said,
Yeah.
I might be interested. Well, maybe I can be the one that convinces you that you are interested today, right?
That's
So
true.
that's really my biggest piece of advice there.
That's good. Andy, you got any other questions,
Um,
comments, concerns?
Only one thing where I will go toe to toe as a hill I will die on with Ed. Um, you, of course, look at it from having worked on the backside of that industry, so you see it from that side. From the client side, I always advise them to do the opposite of what you said earlier. Challenge every lead you can. If you can dispute it and have a real reason to do so, do it, because that will save you a ton of money, especially with someone like Google Local Services, just to move away from Angie for a minute, because those leads are getting crazy expensive. We have some appliance clients who are pushing $80 per lead, and they started off at $9 4 years ago. So the sooner that you can challenge them, even if you don't get it approved, it's worth a shot.
Oh,
And
I won't. Andrew, I will never disagree with you on that if you have the time. And so, really, it's just depending on your audience, because I have worked with customers that I would refer to, and I don't say this in a bad way, as Chuck in a truck,
Yeah.
independent owner operator, and doesn't really have a very big budget for advertising, but he's definitely trying to grow. That's somebody that I want to talk to. That's somebody that I want to be a Workiz customer because we want to help them grow. We want them to end up having 3, 4, 5 employees and then later 10 employees, right? But, you might also be talking to somebody who's got, 50, 60, 100 employees out in the field. And, it gets to be a point in time where it may not be worth your time. But if you have the time to do it, by all means, contest every single one of them, right? Because the answer is always going to be no unless you ask.
Yeah.
And who knows, if you don't have time to do it, perhaps there is some outstanding industry leading virtual service out there that could
Huh.
do it for you.
Well, Andrew, why? What do you mean? Is there a company that's like that?
I do happen to know of one. I can tell you that the average refund rate for disputed leads for the clients we handle um, usually more than pays for the cost of our services every week.
Yeah. There you
So
go.
that is worth taking into account when you come to someone like my office help and you use these lead generation services. We can make your money back other ways than just answering your phone.
Yeah. With the
That's
inbound
important.
outbound stuff. Yeah. And plus, you get to hang out with Andy with his awesome Kevin Costner cowboy hat.
My
Yeah.
hat, my beard. I could say
The,
I'm wearing my boots and you'd never know, but
the
you know,
bearded wonder. So, Ed, I mean, where can people go to learn about you and learn more about you and Workies? How do they
So,
get a hold of you?
so absolutely, I would recommend we have a dedicated link for my office help,
Okay.
which if you guys are able to drop that into the comments, you have your own dedicated URL where anyone who's interested in signing up for Workies, will be contacted by a member of my sales team. And by George, if they're not, I'll pick up the phone and call you myself. But
There you go.
if we can get the link added into the notes there, into the comments, that would be great. Otherwise,
Here, Andrew typing away.
I would recommend that if you're an eager beaver and you just want, hey, I want somebody to contact me now, leave your information in the comments, and we will make sure that someone reaches out to you. because of course I want my fine friends at my office help to get all the credit for the referral and in bringing you in, because we want to try to work a special deal with you, see if we can't save you a few bucks and get you a little extra TLC.
There you go. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd want to say before we start to close out here?
I would just say that Workiz is the greatest field service software ever designed, and we're out there.
Prejudice or anything? Oh, yeah.
We're out there helping build one business at a time. I mean, that's our goal. But I've really thoroughly enjoyed you guys inviting me on today. Any questions, comments, concerns? If you also want to drop my contact information into the notes there, Andrew, Jason, my email address is edward.medor, that's spelled MEDOR, at workiz.com. And of course, that is WORKIZ.com.
Workiz. Now we know.
Yes.
All right. So here's the thing. At the end of each of these podcasts we're doing, we have 5 closing questions for every episode. So this is lightning round. I call it lightning round, right? So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you just hit the first thing that comes to your head, all right? It's the fun part. Ready? Here we go. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Mac or Windows?
Windows.
Ooh, he's hesitating.
Good man.
Wow.
Wait, hold on. I have to say it. I said Mac is the easiest thing in the world, but I'm a Windows guy. Mac is easy, but I am a Windows guy.
Amen.
Chick-fil-A or Arby's?
Arby's.
Arby's, okay. Would you rather see out of your ears or smell with your feet? Would you rather see out of your ears or smell with your feet?
See out of my ears.
See out of your ears. Be an interesting one. All right, here we go. Finally, if you were on a desert island and had one choice, would you choose Wi-Fi or a shower?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
I can jump into the ocean to get clean.
If you don't have a cell phone or a laptop or anything with you, it's good to see Wi-Fi though, you know? So, I don't know. All right, well, that's that.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to dig a little deeper on this one, because I might have a shower, but I don't have like any electric or gas to heat the water. So then it may be a moot point as well.
It's true. I mean, some people like really cold. You've seen the ice bath people, right? Get down in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've tried that a couple times. Interesting. Well, Ed, once again, thank you for joining on this episode of What's on Your Mind with Jason and our co-host, Andy Robinson, the Bearded Wonder. And we look forward to seeing you again in person. And if you want more information about Workiz, we'll be posting that here in the comments shortly. Once again, Ed, thank you very much, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. And also, if any of Workiz customers that we may have invited to the show are looking for the most advanced back office solution assistance that you will ever see, then please also feel free to leave some comments in there for Andrew and Jason at my office help.
Appreciate those comments. That's good words. Good words. All right. Well, until next time, we do have some really cool podcasts coming up that we've got Dan Antonelli with Kick Charge Creative. I'm really excited about him coming. He's got some really cool branding stuff he's going to be talking about. We got some really cool stuff down the pipeline. So anyway, once again, thank you all for joining. And Ed, once again, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Make it a great day.
All right. Cheers.